Señores, hoy es el momento de cumplir con el sagrado juramento que de muy jóvenes lo hicimos frente a nuestro tricolor sagrado. Señores, nuestro pueblo está sufriendo y nosotros no podemos permitir eso. No podemos permitir más que nuestro pueblo ecuatoriano sea amedrentado por personas que no quieren a esta patria. Señores, el día de hoy nos consagraremos y lucharemos para defender a este terruño que nos vio nacer. Porque si se meten con el pueblo ecuatoriano, se meten con las gloriosas Fuerzas Armadas. ¡Viva el Ecuador! ¡Viva!
This is my video update on this Wednesday, midday, January the 10th. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with this Politico article. Macron goes all in with high stakes reshuffle to combat far right, as France's youngest ever PM, Gabriel Attal, will have to save Macron's legacy, though he may have eyes to eclipse it. So the new Prime Minister of France, Gabriel Attal, 35 years old, young guy, he has been brought in by Macron in order to preserve Macron's legacy and to prevent the rise of Marine Le Pen, the rise of the far right and far right elements in France. That is why they brought Attal in, and he is taking over for the prime minister who said in October, I forgot her name, but who said in October of 2022 that the French sanctions against Russia were meant to suffocate the Russian economy. Suffocate the Russian economy and lead to Putin's fall. That's what she said in 2022. French EU sanctions would suffocate Russia, suffocate that Russian economy. Anyway, that statement from the former prime minister who was forced to resign, effectively fired, that statement did not age well. Macron is very unpopular. He is destroying France, doing a terrible job as president of France. And so now they have Attal in the position of prime minister, and they believe that this is going to help Macron's legacy, help his administration's approval ratings. But this is not only about preserving Macron's legacy and not only about preventing the rise of the far right. What this is really about, in my opinion, is introducing the man who will take over for Macron. That is what this is really all about. This is the globalists, the neoliberal, Klaus Schwab, puppet masters, introducing France, introducing the world to the man that will take over for Macron. And when you look at a photo of Macron and you look at a photo of Attal, it's pretty much the same dude. It's just a younger version of Macron. Same look, same hairstyle, same suit, same tie. It's pretty much the same guy. Just a newer, better version of Macron. A more popular version of a very unpopular Macron. This is who the globalists have chosen to be the next leader of France. That's what this is really all about. And even Politico hints at that when they say that Attal, yes, he is being brought in to preserve, to save Macron's legacy, but he may have eyes to eclipse it. That is what Politico wrote in their article. So even they are hinting at the fact that this is the guy that's going to take over for Macron. Swap Macron out with the next guy off the assembly line, off the Klaus Schwab assembly line. That's how democracy works, everybody. That is how democracy works. So they're pretty much doing the same thing in Germany, to be quite honest. They're taking a different approach, But they're going to swap out Olaf Scholz for the current defense minister, Mr. Pistorius. And Pistorius has a better approval rating than Scholz, a much better approval rating than Scholz. But he's still loyal to the globalist, neoliberal, Project Ukraine, warmonger ideology. He's still loyal to all of that stuff. But he does have a better approval rating than Scholz. Scholz's approval rating is in the gutter. And so it does look like that Scholz is on his way out, exit stage left, Olaf Scholz, and bring in Pistorius. Change the name, change the face, but the policy, the ideology, the trajectory, the deindustrialization, the demilitarization stays on course. Project Ukraine stays on course. And as Scholz exits, I believe Scholz will exit very soon, as he prepares his exit stage left. Scholz is making sure that he leaves Ukraine, Project Ukraine, on solid footing. And that is why Scholz the other day, he told EU member states that it's time for them to pick up the slack, to carry some of the weapons and funding weight that Germany and the US has been giving to Project Ukraine. Germany is number 2 when it comes to weapons and money to Project Ukraine. The US is number 1. And Olaf Scholz, he put out in a statement yesterday that the EU needs to start upping the amount of weapons and money they hand over to Project Ukraine. Basically, Olaf Scholz, he wants the EU member states to commit in writing what they plan to give the Zelensky regime, what money and what weapons they're going to hand over to the Zelensky regime. That is what Scholz wants to see happen before he leaves. Yeah, Germany's been stripped to the bone, according to this title. The German chancellor's plea comes amid warnings that his country's own military has been stripped to the bone. It doesn't have any more weapons and not much more money to hand over to Project Ukraine. And so it's time for everyone else to start doing their part to keep Project Ukraine rolling on. One thing that Germany will give over to Ukraine is going to be those Taurus missiles. They're going to give over the Taurus missiles, and that'll be that. The Taurus missiles will go to Zelensky. EU member states will make some sort of written pledge as to what they plan to give to Project Ukraine over the next 1 to 4 years. And Scholz is out. Pistorius is in. That's what I think the plan is going to be. So Scholz is doing his part to please his overlords. And the one man who has been resisting Project Ukraine from the very beginning, the Prime Minister of Hungary, Mr. Viktor Orban, he has set out his terms for the approval of the 50 billion euros that the European Union wants to hand over to the Zelensky regime. Now, keep in mind, these 50 billion euros that they want to give over to the Zelensky regime is over 4 years. So 12.5 or 12.6 billion euros every year. And Orban, he has been vetoing this proposal. He has said that Hungary is not on board with just writing a blank check of 12.5 billion to Ukraine every year. And this has really pissed off the European Union. Very upset with Orban. They're very upset with Orban's behavior, with his attitude. And Orban, well, his country is owed something like 30 billion from the European Union. They've held 30 billion euros in cohesion funds from Hungary. in the hopes that the Hungarian economy would suffer and that Orban would step down as prime minister or would be voted out or removed as prime minister. That is why the European Union has been holding back on giving Hungary the 30 billion euros that is rightfully theirs. It's 20 billion or 30 billion. I forget the number. It's somewhere in that range. But Orban wants that money because that money is Hungary's money. And his terms, Orban's terms, in order to vote yes for the 50 billion to Project Ukraine is that every year before the money gets dispersed, before they disperse 12.5 billion to the Zelensky regime, that every year this money has to be voted on by all the member states, and they have to have some sort of transparency, some sort of accountability and audit as to what this money is going to be used for, where this money is going to go. Those are his terms. Every year, we need approval by all the EU member states, and we need some accountability for this money. Now, reasonable terms, very reasonable terms, if you ask me, right? You're sending money to the most corrupt country in all of Europe, one of the most corrupt countries in all the world. I would imagine that before you send the money, it would be good to have some transparency and some accountability, especially given the fact that the entire European Union is pretty much in recession and really doesn't have the money to spare. But either way, this is what's been decided, 50 billion to Ukraine over 4 years. So Orban wants every year for this to be voted on and to be approved. Now, this is really freaking out the EU kleptocrats. And they're afraid that what this does is that it gives Orban leverage over the European Union every single year. Every year when this 12.5 billion comes up for a vote, it's going to give Orban the ability to extract something from the European Union in return for his yes vote. And yeah, they're absolutely right. This is a great move from Orban, a great move from Orban. And every year, before he gives the approval for the 12.5 billion to be vanished into the black hole that is known as Zelensky, the Zelensky regime, if the Zelensky regime is even around after a year, nevertheless 4 years. But every time this money is voted on, Orban can tell the EU, okay, let me see where this money's going to go. Okay, I see this money's going to go there. That money's going to go there. Now, before I vote yes, you guys owe me 20 billion. Release 5 billion. Release 10 billion. And I'll give you my yes vote. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely brilliant move from Orban. And the EU, they recognize this and they're afraid of this, which indicates, to me, it indicates that the European Union has no intention of returning the 20, 30, 10 billion, whatever they owe Hungary. They don't have the money. They don't intend to give that money to Hungary. And that is why they are freaking out over this proposal from Orban. Of course, the EU also doesn't want any transparency and accountability for the money that's going to be sent to Ukraine. They also don't want any of that going on. But a brilliant move from Orban. Those are his terms in order to vote yes on this 50 billion. And this has upset EU officials so much that one of the parliament members for Finland is actually putting out a petition to remove Hungary's right to vote. Petri Sarvamaa, a parliament member for Finland in the European Union, put out this post on Twitter X, launched a historic petition which, if successful, will allow Mr. Orban to be deprived of the right to vote in the council. I love the wording of that post, will allow Mr. Orban to be deprived of the right to vote. These guys, man, these guys will allow Orban the right to be deprived. We're doing you a favor, Hungary. We're going to allow you to be deprived of your right to vote. So if this petition actually gains momentum and is actually approved, I don't know in what form or how this happens, but let's just say this petition is adopted, and the European Union takes the nuclear decision of removing Hungary's right to vote. What incentive does Hungary then have to be in the European Union at that point? The EU is stealing your money. They're not releasing the money that's owed to you. They've removed your right to vote. They treat you like a third class member. What reason is there to be in the European Union at that point in time? Just get out then. No reason to be in the EU. Anyway, that's the freak out from the European Union. They are suffering from a very bad case of Orban derangement syndrome, ODS. You have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. You have, let's see, Putin derangement syndrome, PDS. Now you have ODS. They are all suffering from Orban derangement syndrome. And you know the story that I talked about a couple of days ago about the council president, Charles Michel, and the fact that he's going to be resigning, stepping down as council president so that he can run for the EU Parliament for Belgium. A smart move by Michel, a very smart move. He knows that Project Ukraine is going to collapse, and he doesn't want to be in the council president seat when it does collapse. So he's basically coming up with the plan to run for the EU Parliament. And because he's going to run for the EU Parliament, it's a conflict of interest to run for Parliament while also being council president. So he's going to have to step down as council president. Very clever move from Michel anyway, because he's stepping down as council president at a time when Hungary is going to be taking over the rotating presidency in the European Union. When Charles Michel does step down, it's going to coincide with the time when Hungary is going to be taking over as president of the European Union. Well, that means that if the EU cannot find a replacement for Michel quickly, then Orban is going to have to assume the role of council president. And this has freaked them out in a big way. So they're now scrambling to prevent this from happening in the next few months, I believe in like the next 4 to 6 months. When and if this does happen, they're scrambling to find a replacement to Michel. And the Financial Times is now reporting that the EU may have found just the right guy to take over temporarily for Charles Michel when he steps down and prevent Hungary and Orban from assuming the council presidency. Orban sitting next to Ursula. Wouldn't that be something, huh? Ursula on one side, Orban on the other side, as they run the European Union. Ooh, every EU kleptocrat's nightmare, their worst nightmare, their second worst nightmare. I imagine Orban and Putin would be their worst nightmare, or Orban and Trump. That would be their worst nightmare. But you know, Orban being there as council president, yeah, that's making them flip out. And so anyway, the Financial Times, they are floating out the name of Mario Draghi. Yeah, Mario Draghi. That is who they say can take over for Michel when he steps down. Mario Draghi floated as potential European Council president, according to the Financial Times. Mario Draghi. You know what Mario Draghi is? I'm going to tell you what Mario Draghi is. He's that player on a sports team that understands and can play every single position. Every position, he can play it on the field. You name it, he can play it. So you call him up from the bench, and you can put him in any position, any freaking position on that team. He understands his role. He's not the best. He's not the best at a certain position. He's not an expert at a certain position, but he can play every position. He's the ultimate utility player that you can call up from the bench. That is Mario Draghi. Whenever the EU runs into any sort of problem, an election that didn't go their way, someone's resigning and they need to plug up a hole, you call up Mario Draghi. We need someone to head up the ECB, Mario Draghi. We need someone to be Prime Minister of Italy, Mario Draghi. We need someone to take over for Michel as Council President, Mario Draghi. The ultimate utility player. That's Mario Draghi. And so it looks like he's going to be called up to take over the position for Council President, according to the Financial Times. Have to prevent Orban from being Council President. Boy, would that drive them crazy. Anyway, let's talk about Project Ukraine now. And Lord Cameron, he's not David Cameron, he is Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron. He said in a statement that the Putin will not outlast the collective West. That is what Lord Cameron said. Quote, our commitment is such that with our allies, we want to demonstrate to Putin very clearly that he cannot wait us out. And we are prepared to support Ukraine through 2024, 25, 26, Cameron told MPs. We are prepared to give that support because it is the challenge of our generation. The challenge of our generation, really? You're telling me, Lord Cameron, you're telling me that as far as the UK is concerned, the challenge of our generation, of the UK's generation, is outlasting the Putin. That is the greatest challenge of your generation, is outlasting the Putin with regards to Project Ukraine. I would just take a wild guess and say that a majority of people living in the UK do not see it the way you see it, Lord Cameron. I don't think they agree with you on that one, but just saying. Maybe this is the globalist. This is the globalist challenge of a generation because they're seeing their entire ideology collapse, their entire power structure collapse. But the everyday citizen, I don't think they see this outlasting the Putin as the greatest challenge that they face, the challenge of a generation. Anyway, that's what Cameron said. They're going to outlast the Putin. 2024, 2025, 2026, 2056. We're going to outlast the Putin. Yeah, the United States, the UK is all the way over there, but Ukraine right there next to Russia, but they're going to outlast the Putin. Okay. Yeah. That's not going to work out too well for Cameron. Sorry, Lord Cameron. Lord Cameron. We had the Ukraine Air Force spokesman, Mr. Yuri Ignat. He said during a television interview the other day that Ukraine's air defenses have indeed been depleted by Russia, by the Russian missile and drone strikes. Here is what he said, and I quote, intense Russian air attacks force us to use a corresponding amount of air defense means. That's why we need more of them. as Russia keeps increasing its attack capabilities. Ukraine air defenses depleted by Russian strikes. A top military official has admitted that escalating missile and drone attacks have strained Kiev's resources. So the big Russian missile and drone strikes over the last week, they've accomplished their goals. They have indeed depleted Ukraine's air defenses. And now you have the spokesman of the Air Force admitting as much. And as Blinken is touring the Middle East, he also made a stop at in Greece, and he made a stop in Turkey. He is saying that he is touring the Middle East in order to discuss the conflict in Israel. But another reason that Blinken is touring the Middle East and meeting with officials in Turkey and Greece is to try and find weapons, air defense for Project Ukraine. Yep. It's not only about Israel, this trip from Blinken. And there are rumors and reports coming out of Greece that on the agenda with his meeting in Greece with Prime Minister Mitsotakis was to try and figure out a way to get Greek weapons and Greek air defense to Ukraine and to Zelensky. So, Blinken, he's traveling the region, and allegedly he's traveling the region to try and figure out a way out of the catastrophe that is the war in Gaza and Israel. At least that's what they're saying he's trying to do. But Ukraine, Project Ukraine, when it comes to the Biden White House, it's always top of the agenda. Project Ukraine is always top of the list. And so they're definitely panicking, and they're trying to figure out ways to get whatever air defense systems they can find to Ukraine, because they understand that the missile strikes from Russia were devastating. So the Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, he put out a statement yesterday revising the casualty numbers upwards for Ukraine, for the Ukraine military. And he said that just in 2023, the losses for the Ukraine military, KIA, as well as injuries, is over 215,000. So that is just 1 year. That is just 2023. And that is total losses. Total losses. And that is the number that Shoigu put out there, revised upwards. So that's the statement from the Russian defense minister. Let's now shift gears a bit and talk about what happened in Ecuador yesterday. What was that in Ecuador? Like a civil war, it seems. The gang cartels against the government. So the gang cartels, they stormed a TV channel during like a live show, and they took the presenter and the people that worked at the TV station. They took them hostage, and then the government and the military, they had to go in and save the people that were working at this TV channel, and they arrested these cartel members. But the videos of this hostage situation, it's all over the interwebs, Twitter and Telegram. And basically, it seems like you have just chaos breaking out in Ecuador. The government is fighting these cartels. And I think there was a prison break from these cartels, or something happened in one of the main prisons. And all of these cartel members, a lot of them busted out of prison, from what I understand. I could be wrong about this, but just general chaos on the streets of Ecuador. The drug cartels versus the military and the government. Chaos breaking out in Ecuador. Hostage crisis at Ecuador's TV station ends. Security officials have freed TV station employees that were held at gunpoint by criminal gangs. Incredible stuff happening in Ecuador, huh? Incredible images, video and images coming out of Ecuador. Let's do one more story and we'll get to our clown world. So the mystery of Defense Secretary Austin has been solved. And yesterday it was reported that Austin was in the hospital because he has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin diagnosed with prostate cancer. Austin was diagnosed in December and underwent a minimally invasive procedure. Walter Reed officials said in a statement Tuesday, hours after Biden was informed of the diagnosis. So get that. On Tuesday, Biden was informed of his defense secretary's diagnosis of prostate cancer. From what I understand, the cancer was detected very early, and Austin's chances of recovery is excellent. But the Biden White House found out about this yesterday. What is going on? What is going on at the Biden White House? Either we have total confusion in the Biden White House, no one knows what anyone is doing or what's going on, or Biden is just not informed about this stuff. You know, why tell the president that his defense secretary has been diagnosed with prostate cancer and he's been in the hospital for 8-9 days because of prostate cancer? It's an incredible development, an incredible story. And, you know, Fox News, they actually bring up a good point about Lloyd Austin's surgery. And they say that that the use of the term elective, an elective procedure, is very misleading, or was very misleading. And they're right. You know, the reports that we were getting over the past couple of days is that Lloyd Austin, he went to the hospital in order to undergo an elective procedure, and something went wrong with that procedure, a complication, and he had to stay in the hospital for a week. Now, when I think of the word elective procedure, when I think of something like that, I think of, like, I don't know, removing a mole or something. I mean, you know, you don't think of prostate cancer. So, you know, Fox News said that this is very, very misleading. Arguing semantics. That is what Fox News said by using the term to remove cancer as elective. Anyway. Let's do a clown world and we will wrap this video up. So the Wall Street Journal, they put out an article with the title, China becomes the world's biggest auto exporter with help from Russia. So China is number one when it comes to automobiles. And The Economist, they put out a cover the other day with an automobile. And the title says, Made in 42, roadworthy in 24, with Biden walking away from that automobile. Looks like The Economist, which is hardcore neocon magazine, looks like they're not so hot on the idea of Biden running in 2024, comparing him to an old classic but busted up automobile. So that is the clown world. Not much of a clown world, but it's all right for today. That is the video, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop, 15% off. Use no code, 15% off all t-shirts. No code needed. Take care.